They found Deputy Director Thomas Hale face down on the sidewalk 2 blocks from his row house in Arlington, rain soaking through his jacket, a bag of groceries split open beside him. Hale was senior federal security, the kind of man who briefed Congress behind closed doors and never spoke to reporters. His murder wasn't loud. No spectacle. Just one clean execution and a shooter who disappeared into the city's veins. By morning, one truth was unavoidable. This wasn't street violence. This was a message. The message pointed to a ghost known only as Mercer, a drug trafficker so insulated that even his enemies debated whether he was real. He controlled distribution corridors from ports to Midwest highways, feeding addiction into towns that barely made the news when they died. Hale had been closing in. Mercer made sure he never arrived. Washington reacted the way it always did when one of its own was killed. Slowly at first, then all at once. The FBI took point. Homeland Security sealed logistics lanes. The DEA dusted off dormant files and reclassified Mercer as a Tier 1 transnational criminal threat. A joint task force formed within 48 hours, pulling analysts from agencies that didn't trust each other but shared one fear. If Mercer could order the death of a senior security official, no one was untouchable anymore. Publicly, officials promised justice. Privately, they admitted something was. Mercer had built his empire inside the system. The mistake wasn't thinking Mercer was a kingpin. The mistake was thinking he was singular. Investigators stopped chasing a man and started mapping a network. Data analysts traced shipping anomalies across ports in Savannah, Newark, and Long Beach. Financial crimes units followed shell corporations that existed only long enough to launder money before collapsing. Cyber teams reconstructed years of burner phone metadata, patterns, not conversations. Piece by piece, Mercer emerged, not as a face, but as a shape. A prosecutor out of Chicago noticed something Hale had flagged years earlier. Seizures that never lined up with arrests. Drugs moved even when leadership supposedly fell. That meant Mercer didn't command through fear alone. He embedded redundancy. The break came from an unexpected place. A mid-level logistics contractor, flagged by DHS for tax irregularities, folded under pressure. He didn't know Mercer's name, but he knew the rules. Never meet him. Never call him. Never ask questions. That silence, one protective, became evidence. The task force moved quietly. No raids. No headlines. They let Mercer believe he'd won. While he had offshore, agencies coordinated asset freezes across jurisdictions, choking cash flow without revealing intent. Trusted lieutenants were arrested on unrelated charges. Extradition stalled accidentally. Communication slowed. Paranoia spread. Mercer felt it before he saw it. Roots failed. Loyalty thinned. The empire that once ran like code began to glitch. When Mercer finally re-entered the U.S. under a false identity he'd used for years, customs already knew. They let him pass, watched him move, listened as his remaining allies made mistakes trying to protect him. The arrest came in a hotel hallway in Denver. No gunfire. No resistance. Just federal badges and the sound of a man realizing the math no longer worked. The trial was meticulous and merciless. Agency witnesses testified not about drama, but about systems. How Mercer fed addiction into rural counties. How overdoses spiked like clockwork. How Hale's murder wasn't an outlier but a safeguard. Hale's family watched from the front row as a life of service was reduced to charts and timelines. Mercer never spoke. Before sentencing, he suffered a fatal stroke in federal custody. No apology, no confession, no moment that felt like justice. The task force disbanded. Promotions were handed out. Press releases declared victory. But the damage didn't disappear. Empty houses, overcrowded morgues, towns still bleeding from a war most of them never saw coming. Mercer had almost gotten away with it. What stopped him wasn't morality or fear, but a system, slow and flawed, that eventually learned how to look at itself. And even then, it came too late for the man who figured it out first.